World Lolly Show. The Worldview.
So how you been, man?
Doing good.
The nation's got a story breaking its heart. I wanted to pick your brain. I thought it would be an insightful thing to hear from you on this. You're a Christian man, and you're a black man. What immediately crosses your mind when you hear a story like that? An unbelievable stroke of evil that's hard to even get your mind around.
Our hearts go out to the people. No country is going to not have tragedy. This guy, he's
clearly a deranged racist.
Yeah, I would say, extremist. He was definitely racist, but he acted upon it in an extreme way. You know what I'm saying? And he took the lives of people, and this stuff happens periodically in our country. You know what I mean? It's a manifestation of the racial tension. I think that we're all feeling, both black people and white people. We're just seeing it's being shoved in our face. Like everywhere we turn, every month there's a racial issue coming up.
I feel that too. I think people are, you see something like this, and I don't really know that if you're a human being, I don't really know how you look at it any other way than just total and complete heartbreak. I mean, the best of us, really, quite frankly, getting mowed down by the worst of us. I've been very, very proud of that area and that state. They seem to have dealt with this in an admirable way. You see all kinds of prayer vigils. You see all kinds of people coming together, which is what you want to see in this issue. And on the other flip side of it, you have just this tension within the country that seems to be inflamed. It's just like nobody knows what to do about it. As a Christian, I see a moral thing first, and then I see a racial component second. In this case, I don't think you can deny a clear-cut racial component.
It's a racial thing, but we got to be careful, I think, about how we deal with the racial. The guy was racist, but we can't think that we can't polarize the entire white race about, you know what I'm saying? So we do that a lot. We do that in relationships, you know what I'm saying? And we do it in our society, where it's like, okay, if I had a bad relationship with a black woman, I'll say black women this, you know what I mean? Or black women or black.
We're broad stroking.
Yeah, we're blaming a whole group of people. I see how white people can feel isolated when we do stuff like that. I don't believe everybody or all white people or even the majority of the white people in America feels the same way as this guy. You see what I'm saying?
It's very insightful what you're saying, because I can speak personally. What ends up happening is, as a white guy, you do feel that, this guy was clearly a racist. This was a racially, oriented thing, and we know that because of his own mind and his own thoughts. But then as a result, you shut down and you don't talk about things. And I try to really push through that, and I have that instinct, just like everybody else, to just shut down, isolate, kind of turtle yourself off, and just play it safe. But really, I think what we really should do is talk to each other, because then those kind of things drift away, and we see each other again.
We do have to talk to each other because we got to understand each other's point of view. Just like me and my wife. Me and my wife, we can have a different of a perspective, and it doesn't mean that, my way of looking at it is right and her way of looking at it is wrong. It's just about us understanding each other's perspective.
And I relate to that as a husband.
We can create racism by isolating. And meaning, like, if people feel like, well, I was trying to understand, I was trying to care, I was trying to, I feel for you, but I still feel like what's the lady's name? Head of a chapter of the NAACP.
Rachel Dosnell or something like that?
Yeah. And, a lot of people have turned against her, and they saying that she's trying to be black. And
I'm interested in your thoughts on that. That's a really interesting case study. I'm interested in what you think about that.
I'm not justifying or anything what she did, as far as lying or anything, but I'm just saying that I felt like she was a woman who identified with the black community, and she had empathy, compassion for it, and she dedicated her life, her studies for it. She even adopted kids. What the point is that she chose this as a lifestyle. And to me, it's more of a compliment. It's more of a person, not saying that she's trying to be black, but I'm just saying that she found it interesting.
Well, I don't know what everybody thinks, but I would say this. When I read that story, specifically when I was in academia, I've known, quite a few. I don't know a lot, but I know quite a few, say a dozen or so, Caucasian people that have invested huge amounts of time and professional capital and education and authorship and all kinds of things speaking to specifically the African American community. So I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue with that particular woman is just misrepresentation. I think that's the only issue. I mean, from what I can tell, if they're upset with her, they're upset with her for the same reason they'd be upset with me for pretending to be an American Indian or whatever.
Her hairstyle, they had, because she had, curly hair. She made her hair, she went from straight hair when she was in high school or elementary school or middle school or whatever that old picture of her was. So now she's a woman where she has curly hair, almost looking like, I guess, a fro.
I think in this day and age, stylistically and stuff, that's a non-factor to me. I mean, people make crossover cultural fashion decisions and stuff like that all the time. The only issue, I think, was that the woman just lied. You know what I mean?
The reason why she lied is she was discriminated before. You know what I'm saying? So she wanted...
Because she was white? You mean because she was white?
Because she was white. So she couldn't... I
mean, that's true, I guess, but it's kind of funny, isn't it?
It's the fact. It's the truth. She had a lawsuit suing an organization for discrimination. So the second time around, when she had this opportunity, and I'm just putting myself in her position, this opportunity of a lifetime, in her perspective, she knew that if she just was like, I'm a Caucasian, she would never get this job. So she said, well, I'm African American. I got an African American child. I studied African American studies. I did this and did this. Her only shot at getting the job that she really wanted was to lie on the application. It sounded like that's what she did. And if that's what she did wrong, then we should be talking about that. And then we should be talking about maybe looking at discrimination as far as is it always good?
I got to tell you, from a black man's perspective, that's an interesting perspective. I would just say, have you thought about this from specifically, these kind of token black leaders, and we talked about those, the Sharptons, Jesse Jacksons, these guys. You already know I don't have a lot of respect for those guys. I thought that they were going to come out swinging, right? I thought immediately they were going to be like, this is unacceptable. There was a little bit of that. It was like a cross-section of opinion. But what was interesting to me is you have to really think this stuff through, because that's a fascinating case study. So a white girl, she resonates, be it culturally or whatever the reason, it doesn't even really matter. It's her own prerogative. She resonates with either black culture or African-American culture, I suppose, in this case. So if you're then allowed to take on then the identity of an African-American, despite the fact that you have clear cultural Caucasian backgrounds, how does that blur the lines with all the laws we have in this country? Because we have laws that say you might get a second look at college if you're a minority. You might get certain quota in a business environment. Not everybody adheres to that, but certainly some people do. And my thinking is, if you're a white girl now and you can just say that you identify with African-American culture, and thus you should be entitled to those benefits, we really live in a very crazy, muddy situation. It's an interesting conundrum, isn't it, at the very least?
Yeah, well, what we have to look at is the reason why they're putting these things in place. They're putting in places, they're looking at the numbers and saying, okay, we have a problem, and we see it clearly, and we want to have more.
So how does it change that?
If we visit the reason why we're doing things, not to create a racial barrier, it's just to level the gameplay.
I will admit that I think that is the intention by most of these policies. But what I'm saying is, doesn't that throw an entire bomb in the middle of the whole situation? What if I just identify with whatever's going to get me furthest in my situation? I mean, that becomes really weird.
I'm gonna tell you. All I can tell you is what I would do. I would actually look at the person, like in the situation with Rachel, right? I would personally look at this individual and see if this person really wants this job. And let's say the job is available and is vacant, and there's no better candidate. Why shouldn't she get the job? She should get the job. It's founded by primarily white people. You see what I'm saying? It's not actually a black establishment. It was actually established in a response to riots in Illinois back in the day. W.D. Du Bois was one of the minorities, one of the black men that were part of the founding members were multicultural, multiracial. And the president right now of the entire NAACP, that brother he's mixed.
Yeah, I've seen him. I mean, I'm still curious. As it stands now, if you're, say, the whitest Casper the Friendly Ghost looking dude ever, you want to meet this, whatever it is, be it some sort of quota or whatever, you're okay with that guy just saying he's black even if he's not black?
No.
Because, if you just mean that in a professional situation, that stuff shouldn't matter, then I totally agree with that.
I'm not proposing a solution. I'm not that sophisticated, and I don't know the answer to. Affirmative action is difficult. It's hard to say to a white American that he cannot go to this college because we got to make room for black Americans when that white American may have worked his butt off to get into the school. That's a hard decision to make.
Yeah, you're right.
But what you're saying to what you have to do is address that, you know, if that school is 90% Caucasian, or if it's 80% or 70%, you have to do something to level the playing field, because education is the key no matter how you look at it.
Interestingly enough, this crosses political boundaries, because as a conservative, this is an interesting topic, because if you honestly listen to an advocate of affirmative action make an intellectual case, it's actually quite a moving case. I'm not in favor of affirmative action, but it's always a moving case to me. Let's say the breakdown is like 90-10. That's like so jarringly different that your instinct would be, well, we got to do something about this. We got to make a correction here. The correction that I want to make, why are all these statistics so out of place? Well, it's because primarily in socioeconomically challenged, predominantly minorities in America, the schools aren't as good. Why don't we fix that rather than make some weird situation that really is just like a Band-Aid on a problem? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
I do know.
Visit the Worldview Facebook page. CourageCulture.net.